The Body in Cold Hollow Creek. Part 1. Hook and Opening. Hook. When Sheriff Claire Maddox lifted the sheet, the corpse opened its eyes. And even before she screamed, she understood something impossible. The body had been dead for at least 7 days. The body was found just after sunrise on a cold October morning in Cold Hollow, Maine, a place the maps remembered only out of pity. By noon, Sheriff Claire Maddox was standing in mud beside the creek, her boots half buried in silt, breath coiling in front of her like smoke signals sent to no one. The crime scene cacks kept their distance, not out of protocol, but out of fear, because the body wasn't like the others. Claire pushed her red hair behind her ear, scanned the scene, and felt the familiar twist in her stomach, the same twist she felt years ago when she unzipped her sister's body bag after the accident. Only this time, the air felt heavier, older, like something ancient was breathing with her. "Sheriff," Deputy Ray called out, not taking a step closer, You need to see the face." Claire knelt beside the corpse. The man looked mid-40s, maybe 50, clothes shredded as if he'd crawled through 100 yards of razor wire. His fingers were broken backward, snapped at unnatural angles. And across his chest, carved deep into the cold skin, were words. "Don't let it follow you." Claire swallowed hard. The creek gurgled beside her, as if whispering something obscene. "Help me turn him." Ray hesitated. "Sheriff, I don't. Turn him." Together, they rolled the corpse onto its back. And then it happened. The eyes. They opened, not fluttered, opened. Wide, milky, staring directly at Claire, as if he had been waiting just for her. Ray staggered backward, tripping over a root. Claire didn't move. Couldn't. The corpse's lips twitched, just barely, a whisper of a whisper. And then she heard it. "He's behind you." Claire spun around, hand flying to her holster, but no one was there. Only the woods, silent, watching. When she turned back, the corpse's eyes were closed again. Ray's voice trembled. "I'm calling the coroner and a priest. Help, maybe both." But Claire kept staring at the dead man's face, because something inside her, something she didn't trust, whispered. "He wasn't talking about someone behind you, Claire. He was talking about something." Chapter 1. The Calling. The body was transferred to the Cold Hollow morgue, a building older than the town itself. Granite walls, rusted doors, a basement that held more stories than bodies. Dr. Harris, the county coroner, was waiting when she arrived. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said. "I think I did." Claire muttered. Dr. Harris laughed, but it died quickly when he saw her face. "You're serious. Run your tests, toxicology, exposure, everything. Something's wrong with this one." "What exactly happened at the creek?" Claire didn't answer, not directly. Instead, she looked at the body lying on the steel table. Dr. Harris followed her gaze. "You think he's going to open his eyes again?" "I know he is," Claire said quietly. And she did know, because ever since she touched the corpse, her dreams had changed. Dark woods, a figure crawling behind her, a scraping sound like bone dragging across stone, and a voice whispering her name. Chapter 2. The Marks. Dr. Harris pulled down the overhead lamp. The bright light framed every wound. "He's got more carved along the ribs," he said, adjusting his glasses. "Looks like a sequence." Claire leaned in. Numbers, letters, carved with care, not rage. 47 degrees, 10 minutes 29 seconds north. 68 degrees, 30 minutes 44 seconds west. Coordinates? Where does it point? Claire asked. Harris typed quickly into his tablet, then froze. That's... He looked up. That's in Cold Hollow Forest, near the abandoned asylum. Claire's stomach dropped. Ravenwood Asylum, closed 30 years ago after 12 patients went missing without explanation. The place kids dared each other to enter. The place adults pretended didn't exist. But they all knew something lived there. Something that never left. Why would a dead man carve coordinates into his own chest? Harris asked. Claire didn't realize she had been gripping the steel table until her knuckles turned white. He didn't carve them. Then who? Claire pointed. Look at the edges. No blood flow, no bruising, no tearing. These carvings happened after death. Dr. Harris stepped back. Impossible. You're looking at it. The lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then the room went dead silent. The corpse's right hand twitched. Claire drew her gun. Harris stumbled back, knocking over a tray. The hand twitched again, fingers flexing as though remembering life. And then, as if pulled by invisible strings, the corpse sat up. Claire didn't scream. She aimed. The corpse's jaw unhinged slightly, too wide, too unnatural. And in a voice that was not his, not human, not from anything that should have existed, it whispered, "Claire, you shouldn't have come back." Her blood froze. Because no one knew, no one alive. No one except the thing in the dark woods that took her sister.
Part 2, Chapter 3, The Thing in the Woods. The corpse collapsed back onto the steel table as though a puppeteer had cut its strings. The echo rang through the morgue, metal on metal, sharp enough to punch into Claire's skull. Dr. Harris scrambled behind a cabinet, panting. Sheriff, what the hell was that? What did it say? Why did it know your name?" Claire didn't answer. She couldn't, because saying it aloud made it real. You shouldn't have come back. She holstered her gun with shaking hands, trying to steady her breath. She hadn't returned to Cold Hollow for the woods, or for Ravenwood Asylum, or for the things she saw, no, thought she saw, when she was 12. She came because her hometown needed a sheriff who knew its ghosts. She didn't expect one of them to speak to her. Dr. Harris edged closer to the table, hands trembling so badly his gloves squeaked. It's impossible. Electrical discharges, maybe? Muscle spasms? Claire shook her head. Muscles don't form words. But how could a corpse possibly... The fluorescent lights flickered again. Harris went silent. Both of them looked up. The lights buzzed erratically, humming in a low, pulsing rhythm. On, off, on, off, off, on, like some coded message. Then the temperature dropped. Instantly. Claire saw her breath fog in front of her. Harris grabbed his elbows, shivering. The thermostat, maybe the power... A low scraping sound echoed through the morgue, coming from the back walls. Slow, dragging, bone on stone. Claire reached for her gun again. Her throat tightened, because the sound wasn't random. It was coming closer. Harris whispered, "Tell me you hear that." "Stay behind me." She took a step toward the sound, boots crunching on grit. Another scrape. Closer. Claire aimed her flashlight toward the morgue's far wall. At first she saw nothing but shells of preserved organs and jars of cloudy fluid. Then a jar trembled, slightly, as though something had brushed past it. Claire exhaled shakily. The scraping stopped. The light steadied. The room warmed by a few degrees. But the stillness was worse. Much worse. Harris swallowed. "Did it leave?" Claire didn't answer, because she saw something he didn't. On the wall behind the table, just above the corpse's head, fresh marks appeared. Long, thin, vertical slashes. 4 of them, as if something with claws had dragged its hand down the concrete. And every cut was aligned perfectly with the man's body. Claire stepped closer, her breath unbearably tight. The slashes were deep, fresh, wet dust crumbled around the edges. But what made her freeze, at the bottom of the last mark, in the fine layer of dust, was a footprint. A footprint that wasn't human. Elongated, bent, like something walked with bones that weren't built to support skin. Harris's voice cracked. "Sheriff, what is that?" Claire forced down the terror building inside her. Whatever it is, it touched the wall. And the body? Maybe more than the body. The corpse's mouth was slightly open, wider than before. She didn't remember it being that wide. Claire stepped back. "Bag him. Lock the room. No one comes in, not even you." Harris stiffened. "Sheriff, if the FBI hears about this, they won't hear about it. Not yet." "Claire, something unnatural is happening. We need a team, containment, equipment." "No." Her voice was iron. "We need to follow those coordinates." Harris paled. "To Ravenwood? It's where this started, and maybe where it ends." Chapter 4. The Asylum. Cold Hollow Forest was a place that swallowed sound. Not quiet. Quiet was peaceful. This was different. This was listening. Claire's truck hummed down the old logging road, beams slicing through darkness thick as tar. Deputy Ray rode in the passenger seat, shotgun resting across his knees. "You sure we shouldn't wait till daylight?" he asked. "No," Claire said. "Whatever spoke through that body, whatever made those marks, it's getting bolder. If we wait, someone else dies." Ray exhaled. "I hate this forest." "Everyone does." The closer they got to Ravenwood, the worse the trees looked. Stripped bark, deep gouges, some trunks bent at unnatural angles, as if twisted by enormous force. Ray pointed his flashlight through the window. "What the hell did that?" "Nothing I want to meet," Claire muttered. They parked at the rusted gates of the asylum. The sign was still there. Ravenwood State Psychiatric Hospital. Closed 1994. The chain-link fence was torn open. Not cut, torn, as though something ripped through it with its bare hands. Ray swallowed. "Sheriff, you see that?" Claire nodded. Inside the fence, the ground was covered in tracks. Hundreds of them, all identical to the print in the morgue, but deeper, as if whatever made them had grown heavier or hungrier. Ray's hand shook on the shotgun. "Sheriff, I don't like this. I really don't like this." "I know," Claire said softly, "but we're going in." The asylum loomed ahead, 4 stories of rotting brick, shattered windows like empty eye sockets. The wind moaned through the cracks, sounding almost human. Claire pushed the gate open. It wailed loudly, echoing through the compound. Ray winced. You had to make it scream. Claire ignored him, because she was staring at something in the dirt near the entrance. A shoe. Small. Child-sized. Ray saw it too. Oh, God! Claire knelt, recognition hitting her like a punch. She steadied herself. The shoe was the same brand her sister wore the night she disappeared. The same color, the same size. Ray whispered, "Claire, what does that mean?" "It means," Claire said, rising slowly, "we're not alone in here." And then, from deep inside the asylum, they heard it. A dragging sound. Slow. Pulling. Scraping. Bone on stone. The same sound from the morgue. Ray reached for the shotgun. "Sheriff?" But Claire didn't look scared. She looked furious. Let's find it.
Part 3, Chapter 5, The Halls That Breathe. The entrance hall of Ravenwood Asylum swallowed their flashlight beams like a throat swallowing light. Dust floated through the cold air. Paint peeled in long strips from the ceiling, curled like dead skin. Ray's breathing was too loud. Claire's not loud enough. They moved deeper. The scraping sound echoed again, slow, deliberate, coming from somewhere below them. The basement. Ray whispered, "Sheriff, the morgue is one thing, but this is where people lived, where they screamed, where they died." Claire didn't stop walking. And where something stayed. She aimed her beam at the floor. More tracks. Those same impossible, misshapen footprints ran in crooked lines all the way down the main corridor. Some dragged deeper than others, as if the thing sometimes crawled instead of walked. Ray swallowed hard. "Claire, this thing has been coming and going freely." "Not freely," she said. "Following something." "Following what?" "Us." Ray froze. What do you mean, us?" Claire didn't answer. Because at the end of the hallway, the world went silent. Completely. The kind of silence that hurt. Ray's teeth chattered. "Sheriff, I can't hear the wind anymore." Claire lifted her flashlight. At the far end of the corridor stood a doorway. But not an ordinary doorway. Because the air around it shimmered, distorted, like heat waves, except the temperature kept dropping. The door creaked open on its own. A blast of freezing air washed over them. Ray aimed his shotgun. Nope. Absolutely not. Claire took a step forward. "Sheriff, no! Claire, stop!" But she didn't stop, because something was written on the door. Not painted, carved. "Come back down. We remember you." Her blood went ice cold. Ray's voice cracked. "What the hell does that mean?" "It means," Claire whispered, "this thing didn't start 7 days ago." She stepped inside.
Chapter 6. The Basement Stairs. The stairway descended into complete darkness. Claire's flashlight beam faded after only a few feet, swallowed by blackness too dense to be natural. Ray hovered behind her. "Claire, please tell me you don't hear that." Claire did. A faint whisper drifting up the stairwell. Soft, childlike, calling her name. "Claire. Claire." She gripped the railing so tightly flakes of rust broke off in her hand. Ray hissed, "Tell me that's not your sister's voice." "It's not. You sound real unsure." Claire moved down the stairs. Each step groaned. Halfway down, her boot landed on something brittle. Crunch. She knelt. Bones. Small ones. From a hand. Ray gagged. No, tell me those are animal bones. All the asylum's animals were euthanized in '88, Claire said quietly. Meaning? Those aren't animal bones. Ray whispered a prayer. Then, a violent bang erupted below. Something hit a door, hard. Once. Twice. Then a deep, dragging inhale, like something massive waking from sleep for the first time in decades. Ray's voice cracked. Sheriff, back up right now. Claire didn't move, because her flashlight illuminated something new at the bottom of the stairs. A message, written in dried, flaking blood on the concrete wall. You left us. Why did you leave us? Ray whispered. Us? Who's us? Claire didn't blink. The children who went missing from Ravenwood. Ray stared at her. They blamed you? No, she said. Something else did. The banging stopped. Silence. Then the basement door creaked open by itself. A chill swept across their skin, like fingers trailing down their spines. Claire tightened her grip on her gun. Come on, she whispered. It's waiting. Chapter 7. The room with no light. They stepped into the basement, their flashlights dimmed instantly, as though the dark wasn't absence, but presence, alive, watching. The air was thick, heavy, cold enough to bite. Ray's breath came out in frantic gasps. Claire's forced hers to remain steady. Beyond their lights, something moved. A slow, gliding motion, left to right. Too tall to be human, too fluid to be animal. Ray swore under his breath. It's behind the pillars. It's stalking us like prey. Claire lifted her gun. It's been stalking this town for decades. Why? What does it want? Claire exhaled. Me. Ray spun toward her. Then you need to leave right now. I can't. It won't stop, not until it finishes what it started. Ray backed against a wall. What did it start? Claire stepped forward into the dark. When I was 12, my sister disappeared in these woods, but she wasn't the only one. Children vanished from Ravenwood, and everyone said the same thing, that the forest took them. Ray stared. You think that thing took your sister? Claire didn't answer, because something else moved nearby, closer this time. Footsteps. Slow. Cracking the ground with immense weight. Ray pointed a shotgun at the dark. Show yourself. Silence. Then a voice whispered from every direction. You came back. We've been waiting. Ray's shotgun shook. Claire didn't flinch. What are you? Show me. The voice exhaled a sound like laughter. And then the flashlight flickered. Once. Twice. On. Off. On. And standing 10 feet in front of them was a figure. Tall. Bent. Skin stretched tight like dried parchment over bones that didn't match human anatomy. Faces, multiple faces pressed against the inside of its chest, mouths silently screaming. Ray collapsed to his knees. Jesus Christ, Claire! But Claire couldn't speak, because the face pressed against the creature's ribs, pale, distorted, frozen in an eternal silent scream, was her sister. Emily, her baby sister. 12 years old, red hair matted with dirt, eyes wide with terror. The creature stepped forward, one trembling, elongated limb dragging along the floor. The sound, bone scraping stone, rattled Claire's bones. She raised her gun. Her hand shook violently. The creature tilted its head, skin cracking and stretching until it hung unnaturally sideways. You left her. No, Claire whispered, tears burning her eyes. I didn't leave her. I looked for years. I searched every—" The creature lunged forward with a speed no living thing should possess. Ray screamed. Claire fired. The shot echoed like thunder, flashing light across the room. But the bullet didn't hit. The creature's body dissolved into the dark like smoke. The bullet slammed harmlessly into concrete. Ray gasped. It vanished! Claire spun wildly, gun raised. No, it moved. A whisper brushed against her ear. "Behind you." Claire turned too slow. A hand, ice cold, inhumanly long, grabbed a fist of her hair and yanked her backward. She crashed on the floor, gun skittering away. Ray roared and fired the shotgun blindly. The blast illuminated the creature's towering shape as it dragged Claire toward the shadows. Its spine split with each movement, opening, closing, opening, as if something inside was trying to escape. Claire clawed at the ground, nails breaking. "Claire!" Ray sprinted toward her. The creature hissed, mouth splitting sideways into a jagged, bone-lined maw. It pulled her closer, closer, breath colder than death whispering across her neck. And then, something inside Claire snapped. The terror turned to rage. She grabbed the rusted metal pipe lying beside her and slammed it backward with all her strength. It connected. The creature shrieked, an inhuman, ear-piercing sound that rattled the lights overhead. Ray grabbed Claire's arm and yanked her free. They stumbled away as the creature recoiled into the darkness. Ray shouted, "Move!" They ran. Chapter 9. The Locked Ward. They sprinted through the basement hallway, flashlights jerking wildly. Behind them, the creature's footsteps pounded, heavy, uneven, relentless. Claire shoved Ray toward a metal door marked Ward C, High-Risk Patients. The handle was rusted, immovable. Ray slammed into its shoulder first. It didn't budge. The footsteps grew louder, closer. Claire grabbed a fallen oxygen tank and rammed it against the door with everything she had. 1 hit, 2, 3. The lock snapped. Ray threw the door open, dragged her inside, and slammed it shut. A second later, boom! The creature hit the door with a force that shook the entire ward. Dust rained from the ceiling. Ray held the handle down with his full weight. "Claire, help!" She ran to the other side of the door and braced her shoulder against it. Boom! The metal bent inward, warping like tinfoil. Ray screamed, "It's breaking through!" Claire scanned the room desperately. Then she saw them. Metal restraints bolted into the walls, thick chains, iron bars, heavy locks. A containment room for something violent, something dangerous, something like this. Claire yelled, "Get back!" Ray dove away as Claire grabbed the largest restraint bar and shoved it across the door brackets. The door bent again, but the steel bar held. For now. Ray collapsed onto the floor, shaking. "Jesus, Jesus Christ!" But Claire's eyes were locked on a small metal bed in the center of the room. A name was scratched into the headboard. Deep, hard, repeated until the metal was deformed. E-M-I-L-Y. Ray whispered, "Claire, is that—" She touched the carved letters with trembling fingers. Yes, this was her room. Ray's jaw dropped. She was admitted here? No, Claire whispered. She was taken here. Boom! The door rattled violently. The creature snarled on the other side. But it didn't break through. Not yet. Claire exhaled shakily. "It's taunting us." Ray looked around, flashlight trembling. "What is this place?" Claire's beam passed over old drawings taped to the walls, crude sketches done with crayons, smiling children holding hands. Then those same children alone. Then those same children surrounded by black shapes, shadow figures, tall, twisted, watching from corners. Claire's stomach turned as her eyes tracked the drawings in order, getting darker, more violent, more panicked, until the last drawing. A girl lying on the floor. A tall, skeletal creature standing over her, its ribs open, faces trapped inside. The caption, written in messy child handwriting, read, "It lives in the dark." Ray whispered, "Claire, look at the corner." She slowly turned her flashlight. Something was carved in the concrete. Another message. But this one wasn't written by children. It was written by something else. Something with claws. "We don't want to be part of it. Help us before it takes you too." Claire's breath vanished. Ray stepped toward her. "Claire, what does it mean, part of it? Part of what?" Claire didn't answer. Because the truth hit her so hard, her knees almost buckled. The faces in the creature's ribs weren't just victims. They were absorbed, consumed, taken, part of the thing now, part of whatever ancient hunger lived inside it, and it wanted her next. The door pounded again, this time harder. The entire room shook. Dust and plaster rained from the ceiling. The restraints groaned. Then a voice echoed through the vent overhead, a whisper, soft, weak, terrified. A child's voice. "Claire, he's coming for you." Ray backed away. "Oh my God, there's someone alive in here?" Claire stared up at the vent, heart hammering, because she recognized the voice she had prayed for years, that she would never forget it. Her sister's voice. "Emily." Claire whispered, "Emily?" The voice trembled. "Run." And then the creature outside screamed, a howl that split the air. The door buckled, bent, then cracked. Ray shouted, "Claire, we need to move now!" Claire grabbed her gun, put her back to the wall, eyes locked on the door, because she knew one thing with absolute certainty. It wasn't going to stop coming. Not until she was part of it, too. Part 5, Chapter 10, The Door That Wouldn't Hold. The metal door bowed inward, screaming under the creature's weight. Ray backed away until he hit the far wall, shotgun trembling in his hands. Claire, it's getting through!" Claire planted her feet, gun raised, breath sharp and controlled. But her eyes weren't on the door. They were on the vent above them, the vent where her sister's voice had whispered. Another bang. The steel bar bracing the door bent in the middle. Ray shouted, "Sheriff, we don't have a plan!" "We do," Claire whispered. She fired upward, shattering the vent grate. Metal clattered to the floor. Ray blinked. We're going into the vents?" "Claire, Emily went through the vents, and if she's alive, that's where she'll be." Ray stared at her. "You seriously think after 30 years she still—" "Move." Ray shut his mouth. Claire didn't need hope. She needed truth. And she had just heard her sister's voice, alive, scared, waiting. Another slam from the door. This time claws tore through the metal, long yellow hooked things that scraped across the room. Ray screamed and fired a blast at the door. The creature shrieked, an ear-splitting, inhuman sound. Claire grabbed the bolt cutters from the wall, tossed Ray her gun, and pulled herself onto the metal bed. She gripped the vent frame and hauled herself upward. Ray shouted, "Go! Go!" The door split. A massive arm pushed through, skin stretched tight over bone, ribs protruding like barbed wire. Claire shoved herself into the vent head first. Ray followed, scrambling up behind her. The creature roared and slammed its body against the door. A final sickening crack sounded. The door flew off its hinges. Ray screamed, "Ray, move!" Claire kicked off the bed and hurled herself through the vent opening, just as the creature barreled into the room. Its claws scraped the bottom of his boot, slicing rubber. Ray screamed as Claire grabbed his arm and yanked him inside. He pulled his legs up just as the creature's jaws snapped shut an inch from his foot. They crawled deeper into the vent as the creature slammed its body against the ductwork, the metal groaning, buckling, shuddering. But it couldn't fit inside. Not yet.
Chapter 11. The Crawling Dark. The vents were barely wide enough for Claire to move. Her shoulders scraped metal. Each breath echoed like thunder. Ray crawled behind her, panting hard. "Claire, where the hell are we going?" Claire didn't answer, because she heard it again, a child's voice, echoing faintly through the ducts. "Claire, hurry." Her heart slammed against her ribs. Ray whispered, that can't be. She'd be. Don't say it, Claire snapped. Just move. They crawled deeper. The fear in Claire's chest built with every breath. The vent sloped downward, then sideways, then split into two directions. Left, dark, silent, cold. Right, faint breathing, fragile, human. Claire took the right. Ray whispered behind her, "Claire, we don't know what's down there." "Yes," she whispered, "we do." The ducts opened into a larger ventilation chamber, an old junction box where several vents met. And in the center, a small figure sat curled up against the wall, bare feet, thin arms, long hair hanging over her face. Claire froze, breath ripped from her lungs. "Emily?" The girl didn't look up. Ray raised the flashlight. "Claire, wait, don't go near her. What if—" But Claire was already moving, slow, shaking. She knelt a few feet away. "Emily?" The girl's shoulders trembled. She began to sob, small, quiet, breaking. Claire crawled closer. I'm here now. Look at me, Em." The girl lifted her head, and Claire's blood turned to ice. It was Emily. The same face, the same eyes, the same tear mole on her left cheek, but she hadn't aged a single day. 30 years, not a minute older. Ray whispered, "How is that possible?" Emily stared at Claire through wide, terrified eyes. "Claire, you shouldn't have come." Claire grabbed her shoulders, tears streaming down her face. "Emily, I'm taking you out of here, right now. I'm getting you home." Emily shook violently. No, I can't leave. I can't." Her voice cracked. "He won't let us go." "Who?" Claire demanded. "Who is he?" A deep, dragging scrape echoed through the vent behind them. Ray's face drained of color. "Oh, God, it's followed us. Claire, it's in the vents. It's coming." Emily's voice broke into frantic sobs. "Run, run, 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 run!" And from behind them, in the dark tunnel, a face emerged. Not the creature's face. One of the faces embedded in its ribs, pushed up through a tear in the metal, screaming silently. Then another face shoved through the duct. Another. Children, adults, all trapped inside the creature's flesh. Their mouths open, their eyes wide, their heads pushing into the vents like they were trying to escape its body. Ray screamed. Claire choked. Emily covered her ears and sobbed. The vent behind them burst open. A long skeletal arm shot forward. Ray fired blindly, shotgun blast lighting the whole chamber. They had seconds, maybe less. Claire grabbed Emily's hand. "Move!" They crawled at full speed, Emily sobbing, Ray screaming, Claire dragging them both through the vent. Behind them, the creature roared, crawling through the vents like a nightmare of bone and hunger and stolen faces. The entire ventilation system shook. It was faster than them, stronger, hungrier.
They rounded a sharp corner. A metal grate waited ahead, rusted, loose from age. An exit. Claire didn't slow. She slammed into its shoulder first, and the grate snapped free. They spilled out, falling 3 feet onto a concrete floor. Ray tumbled behind them. The creature slammed into the vent inside the wall, the metal collapsing inward, screeches ripping through the room. Claire grabbed Emily and ran. Because this time, it wasn't just following them. It was hunting them. Part 6. The fluorescent lights in the county morgue flickered overhead, humming like dying insects. Dr. Keller stared at the grotesque remains on the table, what was left of Deputy Mark Harlow. His face had gone pale, and sweat gathered on his brow despite the frigid temperature. Riley didn't blame him. She could barely look at the mutilated corpse herself. Every muscle in Harlow's body was twisted, bent, as if something had wrung it like a washcloth. His ribcage bulged outward unnaturally, and the skin across his torso looked scorched, but not by fire. More like a pulse of energy had burst from within. "Whatever did this," Keller whispered, "it wasn't human, and it wasn't an animal either." Riley exhaled slowly. "Tell me what you found." Keller hesitated, pulling his mask down. "You really want to know?" "I came here for the truth, no matter how horrific." He nodded, taking a breath that trembled. "Look at his chest," Keller said, sliding the corpse's ruined shirt aside. "These marks, these scorch lines, they're made of patterns." Riley leaned closer and froze. They were patterns. Thin lines intersected across Harlow's chest like some ancient inscription. They resembled symbols she had only seen once before, back in Ash Grove, carved into the bones of the first body. She felt her stomach twist. "They're identical." Keller swallowed hard. "Whatever's happening, it's escalating." Before Riley could respond, a sudden metallic clatter echoed from the hallway. Keller jumped, probably just the night janitor. Riley shook her head slowly. "Janitors don't work past 10. It's 2 in the morning." The clatter came again, louder, closer, followed by a dragging sound, like something heavy scraping across tile. Riley's pulse quickened. She reached for her gun. "Stay behind me," she whispered. They moved toward the hallway, each footstep echoing unnervingly against the sterile walls. The morgue door creaked open. Darkness pooled at the edges of the corridor, thick and unnatural. Then Riley saw it. 2 long, wet streaks of blood dragged from the entrance of the morgue to the freezer room, as if something had been pulled or crawled. Keller's voice shook. That wasn't here 10 minutes ago." Riley's grip tightened on her weapon. "Something's in here with us." The lights overhead flickered violently, plunging the half hallway into shadow, then illuminating it again with a cold, ghostly glow. A low thud came from the freezer room, followed by another. Slow, rhythmic. Thud, thud, thud. Keller whispered, Is that knocking?" Riley stepped forward cautiously. "No, it's trying to break out." The freezer door rattled hard, as if something inside was slamming against it. Metal groaned under the pressure. Keller's voice was barely a breath. But we didn't put any bodies in that freezer tonight. It's empty." Riley felt hair rise along her arms. "No, it isn't." The door dented outward with a metallic crack. Whatever was inside was strong, too strong. Riley raised her gun, aiming at the trembling door. "Dr. Keller," she said quietly, "when that door opens, run." It wasn't a question. The freezer door bulged again, bending outward like soft clay under tremendous force. Keller stumbled back. What if it's human?" Riley didn't take her eyes off the door. If it was human, it wouldn't be trying to escape from a mortgage freezer. The metal screamed. The hinges tore loose. The door exploded outward, slammed off its frame, and something heavy lurched into the dim hallway. Something wet, something broken, something impossibly moving. Keller screamed. Riley choked. Emily covered her ears and sobbed. The exit door opened. Cold night air rushed in. She dragged Keller out with her and slammed the door shut behind them just as something heavy crashed against it. The metal shuddered violently. The creature slammed again and again. Boom! A dent bulged outward. Riley didn't hesitate. Run to the car! They sprinted across the parking lot, breath turning to white fog in the cold night. Riley's heart hammered as she unlocked her SUV and shoved Keller inside. She jumped in the driver's seat. The morgue door exploded outward behind them. The creature rushed into the parking lot on all fours like a starving animal, limbs cracking with each unnatural movement. Riley slammed the gas pedal. The tires squealed. The SUV lurched forward. The creature screeched, and it chased them. Faster than anything dead should run. Almost fast enough to reach them. Almost. It clawed at the tailgate, fingertips scraping metal, leaving deep grooves. Riley turned sharply onto the main road, and the creature disappeared in the dust cloud behind them. For a moment, neither spoke. Keller stared straight ahead, trembling violently. Riley's voice was barely audible. "Keller, what the hell was that?" He swallowed. "I don't know." But the terror in his eyes betrayed something else. He did know. Or at least, he had an idea. And whatever he suspected was worse than anything.
Part 8. Riley didn't stop driving until the lights of Ash Grove disappeared entirely in the rearview mirror. For a long stretch of highway, she and Keller sat in suffocating silence, broken only by the engine's low hum and Keller's shaky breaths. Finally, Riley spoke. "Start talking." Keller kept staring straight ahead, pale as bone. I don't know where to begin." "Begin anywhere," she said sharply. "Something in my morgue just came back to life and tried to tear us apart. I think that's a decent place to start." Keller swallowed, throat bobbing. "This isn't the first time." Riley's knuckles tightened around the steering wheel. "What does that mean?" Keller turned toward her, voice trembling. I've seen this before, years ago, but no one believed me." Riley shot him a quick glance. "I'm listening." Keller closed his eyes for a moment, gathering himself. "It was 2012. I was working in Louisiana, a rural parish outside Baton Rouge. We got a body one night. A hunter found him in the swamps. His chest was carved with strange symbols I had never seen before, almost identical to the ones on Harlow." Riley felt a cold shiver crawl down her spine. "What happened?" she asked. Keller let out a small, broken laugh. "Same thing that almost happened tonight. The body woke up in the morgue. It attacked a deputy and nearly killed me." Riley stared at him. "You never reported any of this? Never told anyone?" He turned away, shame on his face. "I tried, but when the sheriff's office arrived, the body was gone." "Gone?" "Dragged itself into the woods, vanished. The sheriff thought I had a breakdown. They forced me to resign and seek treatment. I spent 6 months in a psychiatric ward." Riley didn't respond for several seconds. "Keller," she said slowly, "why the hell didn't you tell me this earlier?" "Because I thought it was impossible," he whispered. "I thought it was all in my head, a hallucination. But when I saw the symbols again," he looked at his shaking hands, "I knew." Riley's jaw clenched. She didn't want to believe any of this. Dead bodies carving themselves with symbols. Impossible. Bodies waking up. More impossible. But she saw the thing chase them. She saw its glowing chest. She heard the inhuman scream. She couldn't deny what was real. Not anymore. Rain began to fall, soft at first, then heavy, slamming the windshield with frantic rhythm. The world outside blurred into gray. Keller spoke again, voice barely above a whisper. "There's a legend, old, predating colonial America. Something about a group that performed rituals on the dead. They believed the human body was a vessel, not just for life, but for something else." Riley frowned. Something else? Keller's lips trembled. They believed certain symbols, carved into flesh, could invite a presence back into the body after death. Not a spirit, not a soul, something older. Riley's stomach tightened. Older than what? Keller hesitated. Older than humanity. Lightning split the sky. Thunder cracked seconds later. Riley breathed out slowly. So you're telling me someone's doing rituals, carving symbols into people to resurrect them? No, Keller whispered. Not resurrect. Replace. The SUV suddenly shook. Riley jumped. What was that? She slowed the car and looked in the mirror. The trunk was dented. Freshly. Something had hit them. Hard. Keller turned slowly toward her. Riley, don't stop. The SUV jolted again, harder this time. Riley tightened her grip on the wheel. Something's behind us. Keller's voice broke. It followed us. A shrieking howl tore through the storm behind them, high-pitched and furious. A sound Riley recognized instantly. It was the same howl from inside the morgue freezer, and now it was getting closer. Riley slammed the gas pedal with everything she had. The SUV lurched forward. Windshield wipers whipped wildly. Rain hammered the roof. Behind them, running on all fours in the middle of the highway, was the creature from the morgue. Except now, it wasn't alone. Two more figures sprinted beside it. Bodies twisted, jaws broken, symbols glowing like embers under wet, shredded skin. Keller screamed, "There's three! Riley, drive!" Riley didn't answer. She couldn't, because the creatures were gaining. Fast. One leapt onto the back of the SUV, metal buckled, glass cracked, claws scraped through the trunk, piercing deeper. And Riley realized something horrifying. They weren't attacking randomly. They were chasing her. Specifically, her. As if the symbols on the dead weren't finished. And she was next.
Part 9. The SUV fishtailed as the creature on the trunk slammed its weight down, causing the back end to sag dangerously. Metal screeched. Rain blasted the windshield in sheets, and the wipers struggled against the storm's fury. Keller pressed both hands against the dashboard, white-knuckled and shaking. "Riley, it's tearing through!" Riley didn't look back. She couldn't. If she did, fear would freeze her in place. Instead, she gritted her teeth and gripped the wheel tighter. "Hold on." She swerved left, hard. The SUV slid across the wet pavement. The creature lost its footing for a second, its claws ripping deep grooves across the roof as it scrambled to stay latched. Then a second creature lunged toward the passenger side window, slamming into it with a sickening crack. Its jaw dangled, swinging like a split door, teeth clicking, clack, 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 as it smashed its face against the glass. Keller screamed. The window spiderwebbed. Riley cursed under her breath and jerked the wheel again, this time swerving into the oncoming lane, empty thanks to the storm. The sudden motion threw the creature off balance, and it tumbled against the door, sliding halfway down the side of the SUV, before clawing back up. "This is insane!" Keller cried. "They're not just following, they're hunting!" Riley's voice was tight, strained. "They're after me." Keller's eyes widened. "Why you?" "I don't know," she shouted over the storm. "But they want something connected to those symbols." Before Keller could respond, a third creature hurled itself onto the hood of the SUV. It landed with a shuddering thump, its limbs bending in unnatural angles. Its face pressed against the glass, lips peeling back, eyes glowing blood-red through the sheet of rain. The hood dented inward. Riley's heart hammered. "Get off!" The creature's hand shot forward with unbelievable speed, its fingers stabbing through the glass like knives. Keller screamed and pushed himself against the door as shards exploded inward. Rain and wind blasted through the cabin. The thing pulled its face closer, squeezing half its head through the broken windshield. Skin tore, bones scraped. Its shattered jaw clacked open and shut, inches from Riley's face. Her breath caught. The creature's mangled throat gurgled, and then, impossibly, it spoke. Not in English, not in any language Riley recognized, but the sound vibrated through her skull, deep, rumbling, ancient, as though the words existed before air itself. Keller covered his ears and cried out in pain. "What is it saying?" Riley forced herself to focus. "Hold on." She slammed on the brakes. The world lurched violently. The creature on the hood flew forward, launching through the rest of the windshield and skidding across the pavement in a wet, broken heap. Riley floored the gas again before the others could reach the cab. But the creature in the trunk wasn't gone. It howled, a piercing, metallic shriek, and dug its claws deeper into the SUV's frame. The back axle groaned. Keller turned, voice shaking. It's pulling the car back! Riley, it's strong enough to stop us!" Riley glanced into the rearview mirror, and her blood ran cold. The creature's eyes were glowing brighter, pulsing. The symbols across its chest were now radiant, burning through the wet flesh as though something inside the body was waking up, something bigger than the corpse it was using. Suddenly, Keller shouted, "Up ahead! Look!" Riley snapped her eyes forward. A bridge. One long, narrow bridge spanning a churning river below. No railings, no barriers, just slick wood and black water beneath. The creatures were fast, but they were heavy. All she needed was one moment, one chance. "Keller," she said, "get down. Hold on to something, now." He ducked without question. Riley gripped the wheel, jaw set. The SUV roared onto the bridge, tires scooting on the wet planks. With the creature dragging behind, the entire vehicle shook violently. Halfway across, she yanked the wheel sharply right. The SUV slammed into the bridge's wooden guard beam and scraped along it, sparks flying, screaming metal, jarring the entire car. The creature on the trunk lost its grip. Its claws tore away from the metal with a sickening rip, and it fell. It smashed into the river below. Riley kept driving, heart pounding, until they reached the other side of the bridge and shot back onto solid road. Then, only then, did she slow the SUV. Keller gasped for breath, trembling uncontrollably. Riley wiped blood and rain from her face, chest heaving. But before she could speak, before she could even gather her thoughts, her phone buzzed. One message, unknown number. She hesitated, dread twisting in her stomach, and opened it. There was no text, just an image, a photo, taken moments ago, of her SUV on the bridge, from behind, meaning someone or something was still watching, still following, still waiting. Keller whispered, voice barely audible, "Riley, what does it say?" Riley swallowed, her pulse hammering. "It's not what it says. It's what it shows." Part 10. Riley stared at the photo on her phone until her vision blurred. Rain streaked across the windshield, each droplet illuminated by the SUV's interior lights. Keller leaned closer, breathing hard, still shaking from the chase. "Riley, who took that picture?" She didn't answer, because the truth hit her at once. a cold, paralyzing realization. To take that photo, the person or thing had to be on the bridge while the creatures attacked her SUV, watching everything, close, silent, waiting. Riley lowered the phone slowly, dread sinking into her bones. "We're not alone," she said quietly. Lightning cracked through the sky, illuminating the dark stretch of forest around them. The wind ahead twisted into tall pines, black silhouettes shifting in the storm wind. Keller swallowed hard. "We have to get somewhere safe." "There is no safe, not until we know what we're dealing with." She checked the message details. Sent at 02:43 a.m. Location, unknown. Device type, unknown. No name, no number, no signature. Just the image. Keller's voice trembled. "Riley, zoom in." She hesitated, then pinched the screen. The image sharpened. Her SUV on the bridge, creatures crawling across it. Then she froze. On the far end of the bridge, barely visible through the blur of rain, stood a figure, a silhouette, tall, still, watching. Keller recoiled as if struck. "Tell me that's a trick, a shadow, something, anything other than a person." Riley exhaled shakily. "It's not a shadow." The figure's head was tilted, unnaturally, almost wolf-like, as though studying her, just like the creatures had. Keller slumped into the seat, hands over his face. "This is impossible. This is—" Riley cut him off. "We need answers. We're going to the only place that might have them." He blinked rapidly. "Where?" She put the car in drive. "Ash Grove Library." Keller stared at her. "The library? You think books are going to explain that?" He pointed to the shattered windshield, the claw marks, the blood still dripping from the roof. Riley nodded once, steady but grim. "Yes." Because years ago, during her first week in Ash Grove, she had seen a symbol burned into an old historical text, a symbol that looked eerily like the ones carved on the corpses. At the time, she dismissed it as coincidence. Now she knew better, much better. The SUV rolled through the wet darkness toward the old brick library at the edge of town. The storm raged harder. Wind bent the trees like twisted fingers reaching for the road. Thunder rolled across the sky in violent waves. Keller broke the silence. "Riley, what if that figure wasn't human?" Riley didn't look at him. "What makes you think it was?" Keller shivered. "Did you see the angle of its neck? The way it stood? That wasn't natural. And if it took that picture, that means it's intelligent."
Riley tightened her grip on the wheel. "Intelligent, organized, tracking us. And if it controls the bodies, it's leading them," Riley whispered, "commanding them." The thought sat between them like a corpse in a small room. When they reached Main Street, Riley slowed the SUV in front of the library. The building stood dark and silent, its windows blackened by age. A single street lamp flickered above the entrance, casting a sickly circle of light on the wet pavement. Riley killed the engine. Keller looked around nervously. "Are you sure this is smart?" "No," she said, "but it's necessary." They stepped into the rain, each footstep echoing across the empty lot. Riley scanned the surroundings, alleys, rooftops, shadows, half expecting red eyes to blink from the dark. The town was still. Too still. Riley pushed through the library's old wooden doors. They creaked open with a slow, haunted groan. The air was stale, thick with dust and age. They moved past the front desk and into the archive room,
Riley's destination. "Help me with the back cabinet," she said. Keller hurried to assist, his hands trembling. They pulled it open, revealing stacks of old journals, maps, and historical records. Riley rifled through them with urgency, until she found it. A leather-bound book. Old. Fragments of parchment tied with twine. She flipped the cover open. There it was. The symbol. Jagged. Ancient. Familiar. Keller leaned over her shoulder. "That's it," he whispered. "The same marks on the bodies." Riley nodded slowly. "It's older than the town. Older than the settlers. Older than everything." She turned the page and froze. The next page showed a full illustration, a towering figure carved from dark ink, head tilted, limbs long, standing over a circle of marked bodies. At the bottom, written in faded script, "The Harbinger, the one who leads the returned." Keller backed away. "Riley, that silhouette, it looks exactly like the figure in your picture." Riley said nothing, because there, inked at the bottom corner, was a chilling line. "Where it walks, the dead obey." A cold gust of wind swept through the library, but the doors were closed. The lights flickered. Keller clutched Riley's arm. "Riley, someone else is here." Footsteps echoed from the far aisle. Slow, deliberate, wet. And when the shadow appeared at the end of the row, tall, silhouetted, head tilted, Riley's blood ran cold. It was the figure from the bridge, and it had finally found them.
Part 11. Riley's heart slammed against her ribs. The figure at the end of the library aisle didn't move like a human. Its long limbs bent at impossible angles, its head tilted unnaturally, and the shadows from the flickering light danced across the jagged symbols carved into its pale skin. Keller stifled a scream, pressing himself against the shelf. "Riley, it followed us." Riley's eyes narrowed. She backed toward the archive cabinet, her hand brushing over the leather-bound book she had just discovered, The Harbinger. The creature took a step forward. The floorboards groaned under its weight, but its movement was eerily silent for something so massive. Every eye in the library seemed to follow it. "Riley, stay calm," she whispered, more to herself than to Keller. The figure tilted its head again, and then it raised one long skeletal arm. Its fingers curled around the edge of the aisle. From inside the library, the faint scraping of metal against wood echoed, another sound of claws tracing along surfaces. Riley took a deep breath. She opened the book to the next page, revealing diagrams of ritual sites marked across Ash Grove, the symbols glowing faintly even in the dim light. The writing beneath was almost illegible, but chilling. "The returned will find the living. The Harbinger awakens what was buried." Keller's voice quivered. "Riley, what does that mean?" Before she could answer, the figure's red eyes flickered with movement. Behind it, a second and third shape emerged from the shadows, silhouettes of the creatures that had chased them across the bridge. Their glowing chest symbols pulsed like embers. Riley realized with a jolt, they weren't just following the Harbinger, they obeyed it. The first creature stepped closer, its head tilted, jaw hanging, the wet gurgling sound of its throat echoing through the library. Then, impossibly, it spoke. Not words, not even language, but the vibration reverberated through the floorboards, through the air, directly into their bones. The sound was ancient, commanding, and somehow full of hunger.
They belong. They all belong. Join or be returned. Keller stifled a scream. Riley, it's saying something about us. The Harbinger lifted its arm again. The creatures behind it began to move in unison, their heads jerking, torsos contorting. They shuffled toward Riley and Keller with that same unnatural gait, limbs twisting in ways no living being should. Riley's mind raced. The book, the rituals, the symbols, the markings on the corpses. The Harbinger didn't just lead the returned, it controlled them. Her pulse hammered in her ears. The only way to survive was to understand it, to find the center of it. The SUV hit a pothole. Riley gritted her teeth, hands shaking on the wheel, and prayed they could make it far enough from the library. But the Harbinger and his returned didn't tire. They never tired. The red glow of their chest symbols pulsed in time with the lightning above. Riley swallowed. Keller, it knows where we're going. He glanced at her, eyes wide with terror. Then what are we supposed to do? She didn't answer immediately. Her mind raced. The book, the rituals, the symbols, the markings on the corpses. The Harbinger didn't just lead the returned, it controlled them. Her pulse hammered in her ears. The only way to survive was to understand it, to find the center of it. The SUV hit a pothole. Riley gritted her teeth, hands shaking on the wheel, and prayed they could make it far enough from the library. But the Harbinger and his returned didn't tire. They never tired. The red glow of their chest symbols pulsed in time with the lightning above. Riley swallowed. Keller, it knows where we're going. He glanced at her, eyes wide with terror. Then what are we supposed to do? She didn't answer immediately. Her mind raced. The book, the rituals, the symbols, the markings on the corpses. The Harbinger didn't just lead the returned, it controlled them. Her pulse hammered in her ears. The only way to survive was to understand it, to find the center of it. The SUV hit a pothole. Riley gritted her teeth, hands shaking on the wheel, and prayed they could make it far enough from the library. But the Harbinger and his returned didn't tire. They never tired. The red glow of their chest symbols pulsed in time with the lightning above. Riley swallowed. Keller, it knows where we're going. He glanced at her, eyes wide with terror. Then what are we supposed to do? She didn't answer immediately. Her mind raced. The book, the rituals, the symbols, the markings on the corpses. The Harbinger didn't just lead the returned, it controlled them. Her pulse hammered in her ears. The only way to survive was to understand it, to find the center of it. The SUV hit a pothole. Riley gritted her teeth, hands shaking on the wheel, and prayed they could make it far enough from the library. But the Harbinger and his returned didn't tire. They never tired. The red glow of their chest symbols pulsed in time with the lightning above. Riley swallowed. Keller, it knows where we're going. He glanced at her, eyes wide with terror. Then what are we supposed to do? She didn't answer immediately. Her mind raced. The book, the rituals, the symbols, the markings on the corpses. The Harbinger didn't just lead the returned, it controlled them. Her pulse hammered in her ears. The only way to survive was to understand it, to find the center of it. The SUV hit a pothole. Riley gritted her teeth, hands shaking on the wheel, and prayed they could make it far enough from the library. But the Harbinger and his returned didn't tire. They never tired. The red glow of their chest symbols pulsed in time with the lightning above. Riley swallowed. Keller, it knows where we're going. He glanced at her, eyes wide with terror. Then what are we supposed to do? She didn't answer immediately. Her mind raced. The book, the rituals, the symbols, the markings on the corpses. The Harbinger didn't just lead the returned, it controlled them. Her pulse hammered in her ears. The only way to survive was to understand it, to find the center of it. The SUV hit a pothole. Riley gritted her teeth, hands shaking on the wheel, and prayed they could make it far enough from the library. But the Harbinger and his returned didn't tire. They never tired. The red glow of their chest symbols pulsed in time with the lightning above. Riley swallowed. "Keller, it knows where we're going." He glanced at her, eyes wide with terror. "Then what are we supposed to do?" She didn't answer immediately. Her mind raced. The book, the rituals, the symbols, the markings on the corpses. The harbinger didn't just lead the returned, it controlled them. Her pulse hammered in her ears. The only way to survive was to understand it, to find the center of it. The SUV hit a pothole. Riley gritted her teeth, hands shaking on the wheel, and prayed they could make it far enough from the library. But the harbinger and his returned didn't tire. They never tired. The red glow of their chest symbols pulsed in time with the lightning above. Riley swallowed. "Keller, it knows where we're going." He glanced at her, eyes wide with terror. "Then what are we supposed to do?" She didn't answer immediately. Her mind raced. The book, the rituals, the symbols, the markings on the corpses. The harbinger didn't just lead the returned, it controlled them. Her pulse hammered in her ears. The only way to survive was to understand it, to find the center of it. The SUV hit a pothole. Riley gritted her teeth, hands shaking on the wheel, and prayed they could make it far enough from the library. But the harbinger and his returned didn't tire. They never tired. The red glow of their chest symbols pulsed in time with the lightning above. Riley swallowed. "Keller, it knows where we're going." He glanced at her, eyes wide with terror. "Then what are we supposed to do?" She didn't answer immediately. Her mind raced. The book, the rituals, the symbols, the markings on the corpses. The harbinger didn't just lead the returned, it controlled them. Her pulse hammered in her ears. The only way to survive was to understand it, to find the center of it. The SUV hit a pothole. Riley gritted her teeth, hands shaking on the wheel, and prayed they could make it far enough from the library. But the harbinger and his returned didn't tire. They never tired. The red glow of their chest symbols pulsed in time with the lightning above. Riley swallowed. "Keller, it knows where we're going." He glanced at her, eyes wide with terror. "Then what are we supposed to do?" She didn't answer immediately. Her mind raced. The book, the rituals, the symbols, the markings on the corpses. The harbinger didn't just lead the returned, it controlled them. Her pulse hammered in her ears. The only way to survive was to understand it, to find the center of it. The SUV hit a pothole. Riley gritted her teeth, hands shaking on the wheel, and prayed they could make it far enough from the library. But the harbinger and his returned didn't tire. They never tired. The red glow of their chest symbols pulsed in time with the lightning above. Riley swallowed. "Keller, it knows where we're going." He glanced at her, eyes wide with terror. "Then what are we supposed to do?" She didn't answer immediately. Her mind raced. The book, the rituals, the symbols, the markings on the corpses. The harbinger didn't just lead the returned, it controlled them. Her pulse hammered in her ears. The only way to survive was to understand it, to find the center of it. The SUV hit a pothole. Riley cursed, gripping the wheel tighter. Behind them, the creatures ran faster, their long limbs smashing into the mud. Rain plastered Riley's hair to her forehead. She swerved sharply, tires spinning, and suddenly the road opened into a clearing. There it was, the Ash Grove Cemetery. Her stomach sank. Tombstones jutted from the ground like jagged teeth. Mausoleums lined the far edges. The place reeked of damp earth and decay. "The rituals," Riley said quietly. "They all lead here. Every symbol in the book, it points to the cemetery." Keller's voice cracked. "You want to go in there?" Riley's jaw tightened. "It's the only place we can stop this." She swung the SUV toward the cemetery gates. The creatures followed, effortlessly keeping pace. They were fast, relentless, unstoppable. Riley skidded the SUV through the iron gates, nearly tearing the doors off their hinges. Rain splashed violently against the windshield. The harbinger appeared directly in front of them, standing in the middle of the main pathway. Head tilted, glowing symbols etched deep into its decaying flesh. Behind it, the other returned, gathered silently, like shadows forming into a wall. Keller gasped. "Riley, we can't fight them." She looked around. The cemetery was old. The graves were uneven, some tilting, some cracked open. Mausoleums had statues that leered from above, their stone eyes gleaming in the storm. And at the far end, she saw it, a massive stone altar carved with symbols identical to the ones on the harbinger's chest. "It's the center," she whispered. "That's where it all started, and that's where it ends." The SUV stopped near the first row of gravestones. Riley leapt out, grabbing the leather-bound book from the passenger seat. Keller followed reluctantly, holding a crowbar he had picked up in panic. The harbinger's head tilted, its gaze locking on Riley. A sound like scraping metal echoed through the cemetery. Then the returned began to move. Slowly at first, then faster, encircling them. Riley opened the book. She could feel it, the ritual instructions. The symbols weren't just for controlling the dead, they were a key. The altar pulsed faintly beneath the rain, and she realized the harbinger was drawing power from the altar, from the cemetery, from the very earth beneath them. "This is it," she whispered. "If we destroy the altar, maybe we can stop it." Keller looked horrified. "And if we fail?" Riley's eyes hardened. "Then it takes everything, everyone, and no one is safe." Lightning split the sky again. Rain hammered down like needles. The returned closed in. The harbinger stepped forward, symbols flaring brighter. Its gurgling voice vibrated through the ground. "Join, or be returned." Riley's hand shook, but she gripped the book tightly. "Not this time," she whispered. The first returned lunged. Riley swung the book like a weapon, striking its face. It howled, recoiling, and she bolted toward the altar. Keller ran after her, crowbar raised. The harbinger screamed, a sound that bent the air, shaking the trees, vibrating through the gravestones. And then the storm itself seemed to answer. Wind tore through the cemetery, rain pelted down like needles, and the earth beneath the altar began to shift. Riley reached the stone platform. Symbols glowed beneath the wet surface. Her mind raced, recalling every detail in the book. She traced a symbol with her finger, murmuring the ancient words printed in the margin, words older than the town, older than humanity. The returned shrieked and clawed at the air. The harbinger roared, lunging toward her. Its glowing symbols blazed. Riley whispered the last phrase. The altar shattered. A shockwave ripped through the cemetery. The return screeched, staggering. The harbinger's glowing chest flared, then dimmed. Its limbs twisted unnaturally, as if something inside it was being pulled back, torn from it. The air stank of sulfur and decay. A black mist rose from the altar, swirling around the creature. It howled, louder than ever, then collapsed into itself, a heap of ragged flesh and twisted bone. The mist dissipated. Silence fell. Riley dropped to her knees, soaked and trembling. Keller collapsed beside her. Lightning flashed one last time, and then nothing. For a moment she thought it was over, until she heard it, a soft, rasping whisper from the shadows.
Final chapter, Part 13. The Harvest of the Returned. Riley and Keller sat in the mud, rain soaking their clothes, hearts hammering, lungs burning. The altar lay in ruins behind them, splintered stone glowing faintly as the storm began to ease. For the first time in hours, she allowed herself to breathe.
Is it really over? Keller whispered, voice trembling. Riley shook her head slowly. I don't know. I destroyed the altar. That should have severed its link, but the harbinger didn't die. It collapsed, but it spoke. Keller swallowed hard. Yeah, that whisper. Riley's eyes narrowed. She rose to her feet, gripping the book tightly, soaked pages dripping into the mud. She scanned the cemetery, broken gravestones, the ruins of the altar, and the surrounding forest. Silence, but an unnatural, heavy silence. Then she heard a faint sound, a child's voice. Claire. Her stomach dropped. The voice was soft but unmistakable. Emily, her sister. Riley froze. Emily? Where are you? The voice came again, closer, through the mist that had begun to rising from the broken altar. A small figure emerged, stepping lightly over the tombstones. Red hair plastered to her head, pale skin, eyes wide with terror. Emily, alive, somehow unchanged by decades of disappearance. But there was something different, something darker. Claire, Emily whispered, trembling. I couldn't stop it. I tried, but it's inside me. Riley's heart sank. Inside you? Emily's gaze dropped. Symbols glowed faintly beneath her skin, thin, jagged lines etched into her wrists, her neck, the curve of her collarbone. The same symbols Riley had seen on the corpses and in the harbinger itself. It's been growing. All these years. It took the others, absorbed them, and now it wants me. Wants you, too. We can't fight it together. Not yet. Riley felt a surge of terror and anger. We're ending this, Emily. We're ending it now. Emily shook her head violently. No, you don't understand. If we try, it'll kill you first. It's stronger than you think. I'm the key. Riley swallowed hard. Then I trust you. Whatever you're going to do, finish it. I'm not leaving you behind again. Emily's lips trembled. I don't know if I'll survive this, but I have to try. I have to stop it from ever coming back. She raised her hands, the symbols glowing brighter. The air around them thickened. The mist rose faster, forming shapes, faces of the returned, twisted and screaming, trapped in the ethereal smoke of the harbinger's essence. The shadows circled them like wolves, drawn to Emily's aura. Riley took a step forward. Emily! Emily shook her head violently. Go! You'll have to run when it starts. Run and live. Remember me. Riley's throat tightened. She wanted to argue, to fight, to stay. But she understood. This was her sister's burden.
Emily began chanting the ancient words, the same phrases Riley had read in the book. The symbols burned brighter, etching themselves further into her skin. A shriek ripped through the air, the sound of 1,000 tortured souls. The returned surged forward from the mist, clawing at the invisible barrier that formed around Emily. The harbinger's essence, the twisted force behind the returned, began to materialize. A massive shadow towering over Emily, body contorting in impossible ways, jaws snapping, eyes blazing red. Riley fell to her knees, tears streaming. Emily, no! Emily's voice rose above the chaos. This ends now! She thrust her hands forward. A blinding light erupted from her chest and the etched symbols. The shadows of the return screamed, twisting and dissipating into smoke. The harbinger's massive form writhed, clawing at nothing, then shattered like glass. The ground shook, tombstones toppled, rain pelted down in a relentless torrent. Then, silence. Riley crawled toward her sister. Emily lay on the ground, eyes closed, pale, but alive.